What is going on, YouTube? Welcome back to Fireside Rangers. I'm your host, Eric Wilson. Today, joined with my co-hosts, Anthony Rivardo and Will Cohen. Last night, the Rangers had a little bit of a stinker. Third straight game in the Eastern Conference Finals goes to overtime. This time, the Rangers did not get lucky, weren't able to close it out. The Eastern Conference Finals is now tied 2-2 heading back to New York tomorrow night. It was a pretty bad game. It's been a pretty bad series for the Rangers, despite the even 2-2 series right now. I think the Rangers have been outplayed in pretty much every statistical column other than the win column. But we got a lot to break down from last night's game, so we're going to get right on into that. But before we do, make sure you guys like, subscribe, ring that bell to miss notification. Leave your thoughts on Game 4 down in the comment section below. And lastly, be sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms at Fireside Rangers for daily Rangers content and updates. But before we really get into it, Anthony, my friend, we were there last night. Tell me about it.
Listen, I had a blast. I was having so much fun until all of a sudden I wasn't. It was a really exciting game to be in person to watch. The first period, the Rangers looked incredible. I mean, they were playing with so much aggression. They outshot the Panthers in the first period. And then they came out of the gates in the second period and looked like a totally different team, completely flat. Third period, Lafreniere was the hero, like I predicted that he would be in the third. Sniped one. And then after that, again, they looked flat. They have the same problem that we've been criticizing them for throughout the series and throughout the postseason in general, Eric, where we keep saying how they get a lead and then they sit on it and they expect Igor Shesterkin to carry them to victory. And it's just not sustainable because as great as Igor is, even if you look at last night's performance, incredible. I mean, he was absolutely amazing. And even regardless of that, when you are allowing the Panthers to take that many shots and that many high danger chances, you can't win like that, no matter how good Igor Shesterkin is. So that's been the Rangers' problem all throughout the postseason. That was their problem last night. Again, we had a lot of fun at that game last night. It really was a great experience being in a playoff hockey environment. However, it ultimately didn't end the way we wanted it to. And a lot of that does have to do with the fact that Mika Zibanejad has completely forgotten how to play hockey at a high level. A few of the other Rangers stars have done that as well, but really tough loss. And now it's a best of three series. Hopefully we can bounce back and still find the way to move on.
Yeah, I mean, I will say this will be one of the few positive things that come out of my mouth throughout this episode. The Panthers have not beaten the no fans allegation. There were definitely a lot of Ranger fans there. It's the Eastern Conference Finals, and they couldn't even sell out the upper bowl. There were so many empty seats. Throughout the game, Anthony, we were just talking at like normal voice level, like we're talking at right now, and we had no problem hearing each other. And they were also definitely pumping some noise into there too. We talked about Carolina doing that. It was abundantly clear in Florida that a lot of that noise was artificial. So, well, you know what, Carolina, you might have won the game, but at least the Rangers have a fan base. So shout out them for that. But Will, you weren't able to attend the game with us. You were at home watching it. Was the experience any different than what me or Tony have been putting out, or are you pretty much just getting the same vibes from the game?
I got the same vibes. I mean, that first period was really good. They had a 40-second, I guess, like a 40-second advantage in offensive zone possession time in the first, and they outshot them 12-11, and then the second period started, and it just looked like it went away, and they just completely didn't care about playing hockey once they got that lead on the on Trocheck's bar down snipe, which was gorgeous. But I mean, they tied it up in the third. Igor played fantastic, but they kind of got dominated again, and instead of being able to win in overtime like they did the last two games, they lost, and now are going back to MSG tied at 2, and now it's a best of 3 series. So I mean, I was trying to stay level-headed the entire game, but that loss did suck, but it's whatever. It's best 2 out of 3 series. You're going back to MSG for Game 5, so win Game 5 and look to move on in Game 6. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, we can only hope that the Rangers will bounce back and really make this a good series. But if I'm being completely honest with you, I don't think the Rangers have had a good series at all. I think we're very lucky that the Rangers haven't been swept at this point. Got shut out in Game 1, and then 3 straight games going to overtime, all 3 games in which the Rangers were horribly outplayed. Like, thank God for Barclay Goodrow and Alex Wenberg for scoring those 2 overtime winners, because I am genuinely shocked that the Rangers still in this series. Like, the depth has come through, Igor has come through, but you look at our top stars, they've done absolutely nothing. Artemi Panarin had 2 assists last night. Good. I'm happy about that. But before then, like, what has he done? Kreider hasn't scored a single goal since his Game 6 heroics against Carolina. Zibanejad has been blanked in 9 straight games, which Mika Zibanejad, man, like, I don't know. He is the reason we lost last night. He makes that incredibly dumb play, trying to pass it off to Blake Wheeler, because in my opinion, he's spoken about it. He says it was just a poor decision. He thought that Wheeler was more open. I think Zibanejad was just afraid. And like, realistically, the smart decision would have been to dump the puck back into the zone, complete the line change, but that would have resulted in Zibanejad maybe getting roughed up a little bit. So instead of wanting to take a hit and, injure his pretty little long hair, he decides to try to just give it over to old man Blake Wheeler, which eventually results in a turnover. Blake Wheeler is forced to take a penalty. I actually don't have any problems with that penalty. I think it was a smart decision. It's the right play. And then leads to a power play goal right at the start of overtime. So I fully blame Mika Zibanejad on us losing this game. I know Kreider, Panarin could have been better too. The defense could have been better too. But when I look at that one play that cost the game, I look directly at Mika Zibanejad. The whole team needs to be better, but for that one play in particular, Mika, you've been terrible this series. 0 points in 4 games. To me, your tenure as a Ranger is on the line if you can't step it up in the next couple games.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I'm feeling the same way. I mean, it's just gotten so bad with Mika. It's like, I don't know what the point of having him on the ice is sometimes. Like, his time on ice does need to be reduced. He can't be on the ice as much. He's been a liability in many ways. He gives away the puck far too often. His shots are not high danger. I think he had 6 shots on goal last night, but I think all of them were straight to the chest of the goalkeeper. Like, none of them were really anything to write home about or get excited about or feel like he actually had a chance of scoring. He just has not been himself. And that's been not only in this series, but for the whole postseason. He's got 14 points and 14 giveaways in the postseason. He's -3. He's not producing. This team is being hurt when he's on the ice. He's not elevating anything. He's not elevating the power play. He's not elevating the 5v5. He's giving away the puck, and he's just playing poorly. And I don't know exactly what the solution is. Eric, I know that you and I have kind of discussed and you've got some thoughts on that, so I'm sure that you'll want to dive into that. But I'll let Will kind of take his chance here at discussing the absence of Mika Zibanejad, because this series, he really has been a ghost. And I thought that last night, the giveaway at the end was terrible, cost us the game. But throughout the game, I thought that he looked like crap. And I thought that that's really what we've been accustomed to over the past several games from Mika Zibanejad.
He just looks disinterested, or uninterested. Sorry, he looks so uninterested when he's on the ice. Like, it just doesn't seem like he's trying. Doesn't seem like him and Kreider care. Like, it's just too many turnovers, lazy plays, and I go back to the turnover that led to the Wheeler penalty, and I saw a lot of people blaming Blake Wheeler on that, but Mika just threw a prayer to Wheeler, and it got intercepted, and Wheeler had to hustle his. Excuse my language. Hustle his ass back to Barkov, and unfortunately in my opinion, took a really smart penalty and took a hooking penalty there. But that play is all on Mika. You can't blame Wheeler for that. Like, he's trapped. What else do you want him to do? He has to get back, because I don't think there wasn't a second defenseman. I think it was just one. I can't remember who it was, but Wheeler is the guy that has to get back, and that's entirely on Mika. And when your 1C has no points through the first 4 games and hasn't put up a point in 9 games or a goal in 9 games, how do you expect to win? Like, I see Ranger fans blaming the refs and everything, but how do you expect to win when your 1C you're paying $8.5 million does not have a point in 4 games? Well, yeah, that's pretty pathetic, and looks uninterested on the ice as well. And he's not driving 5v5. He's not doing anything on the power play. It's pathetic from him, and it's completely unacceptable as well. And the reason why they lost that game yesterday was on Mika Zibanejad, in my opinion.
And it's not even just Mika that's gone scoreless in 4 games. It's Kreider too. which makes me really question that first line. I know at the start of the game, Roslovic was up on that line with them, but there were also a couple shifts. We saw Kako there. We saw a bunch of people playing up on that first line with Kreider and Zibanejad, just Laviolette trying to do something to get them going. So, like, moving forward, if they're not going to be playing good hockey, the question becomes, what do you do with them? Because you don't want to break up the second line. Even though Panarin hasn't been perfect, he still had 2 assists yesterday. You really don't want to break up the second line, especially when Trocheck and Lafreniere are producing as much as they are. But you're not going to see Zibanejad play on the third line and have Alex Wenberg be your first line center in Game 5. Like, that just doesn't make sense. Kreider down to the third line and have Will Cooley be your first line left winger. Like, no, it's like, in my opinion, at 5v5, they're kind of just stuck there, unless maybe Brennan Othman comes up. But I think that just sounds so far-fetched that I don't even know if it's worth having a conversation about. So to me, when I think of a change that needs to be made, I look at the special teams unit. I think Mika Zibanejad very easily needs to be demoted down to the second power play, because clearly his one-timer that he tried about 6 times yesterday isn't working against the Florida Panthers. Send him down, let him play with the bums on that terrible second unit, and give Alexis Lafreniere the time to shine. Alexis Lafreniere is having the series of his career. He had a legacy game in Game 3, and he looked phenomenal in Game 4, but he's playing on a terrible second power play unit. Send him up. Let him play. We don't need another center on that first unit. We have Vincent Trocheck. He's the guy who takes all the faceoffs and everything. Zibanejad's been useless at 5v5 and on the power play. Unfortunately, can't really do much at the 5v5, in my opinion. So send his ass down in the second unit. Give Lafreniere that time to shine. That's like, but I don't know how you guys feel about what changes need to be made or what even can be made at this point.
Well, I do think that the Rangers will benefit from having Filip Chytil back in the lineup. Obviously, they called it load management, basically maintenance for his injury, trying not to overwork him. He hadn't played hockey in a long time before he got injected back into the lineup. I think that having Chytil back in there is an important component towards getting this team back on track. Blake Wheeler, I don't blame him for that penalty that he took at the end either, but he was mostly a non-factor in that game in my mind, and I think that Filip Chytil provides more of a spark, brings more energy to the team, and does provide more of an offensive output. So having Filip Chytil back is one of those things that, this next game, back in the Garden, Filip Chytil back on the ice, like, those are the factors that can get this Rangers team playing well again. So I like that, and I also think that you could kind of discuss Kaapo Kakko and his role. Kaapo Kakko started playing a lot towards the end of the game with Chris Kreider and with Mika Zibanejad, and any of the chances that they did create, they didn't convert, but a lot of them were created by Kaapo Kakko. So that could be one potential solution. Continuing to play him with those two guys might be a way to spark something, but I do think that it's going to come down to these kids. Alexis Lafreniere, the former kids, now they're not really, all of them are that much of kids anymore, but Alexis Lafreniere has been incredible in this series, and I think he's going to continue to play that way. Kaapo Kakko has been healthy scratched and back on the ice. He's been flipping flopping with his performances, but I do think that Peter Laviolette's starting to figure out that he could be the guy to kind of elevate that line in some way and bring a different energy to Kreider and Zibanejad. But then getting Filip Chytil back out there, I think, is just going to be huge. And I get that they need to maintain his injury, manage his load, all that. It's necessary since he didn't play hockey for so long. But those three guys are probably going to end up being the key to winning the series. And I think that getting Filip Chytil back out there might just be the big catalyst.
Yeah.
Will,
you go. All I was going to say was I agree with Tony. Filip Chytil coming back is going to be huge for Game 5. But
no, I agree with that too. I mean, if Filip Chytil has more speed and skill than Kaapo Kakko, in my opinion. So putting him up on the first line is going to help out a lot again. And obviously, Blake Wheeler got a little bit of a run with them as well. And Chytil's better than him. He's better than Roslovic. So I think he can drive play. He has that speed and skill that he can help Mika and Kreider, but I don't know if it's going to be enough to help those two. I mean, they got to do stuff on their own too. Like, you're supposed to be your play driver, not, your 25-year-old Filip Chytil. Like, it's supposed to be Mika. So Mika needs to figure it out, but I do think that Filip Chytil coming back will help them, because if you want to beat the Panthers, you need speed and skill in your lineup, and that's what Filip Chytil brings. So hopefully that'll help the first line. I don't know if it'll help out a ton, but it'll do something more than Kako or Wheeler or Roslovic.
Will, I'm curious to ask, if the Rangers end up losing this series, do you think there's a chance it could be Mika Zibanejad's last game played with the Rangers?
He has a full no movement clause, so I really can't see that. I don't think they're
No.
gonna have a very easy time moving that. So I don't think so. I mean, maybe he says, yeah, I'll move my contract, somewhere else, like give them like 3 teams to choose from. But even then, the Rangers really have no leverage in a trade with him, dealing him a package. So I can't see it being his last game as a Ranger if they lose this series.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't realize he had the no move clause, but if that is the case, I wouldn't be shocked if the Rangers do lose this series that he is no longer the 1C. Like Panarin, Trocheck, Lafreniere, that'll just become the new first line, and Zibanejad, as he just gets older, will just sink his way down in the lineup, in my opinion. Like he's been such a disappointing player all season, and like I know the point totals are there, but he hasn't looked the same. And it's really, really hurting this team. And, I'm seeing it live in person last night. I'm just like beyond upset about what I've seen from Mika Zibanejad these playoffs now too. Like he's supposed to be our 1C. You make $8.5 million. How has it been 4 games? And all you've done is cost us goals. Not even contributed for goals. You've cost us goals. If you're going to do nothing, just do nothing. Don't hurt us at least. But the last thing I want to talk about is the player that I got to hate on every single episode, Jacob Trouba. Another player who had a stinker last night. Like I'm just going to sound like a broken record if I get into it. Trouba, get off the ice, dude. Like I'm done watching you play this season. Scratch him. Just get him out of here. But I don't know how you guys feel.
They can't scratch him because he's the captain. I think it would be like so far out of left field if they really did that. But I understand the sentiment. Believe me, he's been pretty bad. Pretty much every time the other team scores, Jacob Trouba's on the ice. There's a common denominator here, and it tells you exactly what the problem is. Yeah, 6 straight goals. 6 straight goals against the Rangers. Yeah. Trouba's on the ice. So it tells you something. It tells you that when he's on the ice, the Rangers are just worse off defensively, and they have a really tough time defending, especially this Panthers team. So, I mean, yeah, Jacob Trouba, there's not really a whole lot you could say. Like, he hasn't been good in any facet of the game, but a lot of the defensemen haven't. Adam Fox, we can continue to give him some slack because, he's playing with one leg, basically. But Keandre Miller has also had his gaffes. Jacob Trouba's just had so many of them. He's just a glaring eyesore when you watch this Rangers team. So I don't really know what the solution is there because, again, I don't think there's any chance that he gets scratched, but he is an absolute liability on the ice right now.
Your solution could be 11 forwards and 7D. And go put Zach Jones in the lineup and have another puck-moving defenseman because – I think a big reason why the Rangers are having so much trouble getting, offensive zone time is their breakout passes and, their outlets. And most of them are too far. They turn into icings. Like they don't have many defensemen that are good at moving the puck out of the zone, out of the defensive zone when there's pressure on them. And most of the time it turns into turnovers. And like I said, icing. So maybe you go 11-7 and put in Zach Jones, who can move the puck, who's a good in all 3 zones, who's a good puck moving defenseman, who's fast, who has speed, who's willing to make plays along the boards and hit. And maybe that's your solution right there. But I don't know. Jacob Trouba yesterday on that penalty kill, leading up to the Reinhart overtime winner. I mean, he was chasing the puck on the penalty kill, and that's literal common hockey knowledge that you do not chase the puck on the penalty kill. Like you just got to stay tight in your box and go from there. But he got caught puck chasing and led to a goal. So that's all I got to say about Trouba.
Terrible performance from the defense last night. And really this whole series, again, terrible performance from Kreider and Zibanejad this entire series. I really think there's only 3 players I can name on this entire roster that have consistently played well. It's Igor Shesterkin, Alexei Lafreniere, and Vincent Trocheck. So like those 3 get a shout out. I think they've been the only good players on this entire roster. And like I said, very much earlier in this episode, the Rangers are extremely lucky that this series is tied at 2 apiece, and the fact that it's not already over and Florida has already booked their ticket to the finals. I think we've been outplayed in every area of the game, again, outside of the win column. I don't know how we've been pulling it off, but go ahead, Tone.
I also have to say it, and this is going to shock you guys. We've also been outcoached. Peter Laviolette has not exactly found the winning formula in this series, and he's made some slightly head-scratching decisions. And I mean, there is no easy solution, though, to the Rangers' problems right now. Like, we're bouncing them all around, but all of them come with these massive cons. Like, we're talking about what's the solution to getting Trouba to play better, taking him out of lineup, doing this. We know how many cons come along with the pros in that scenario. Mika Zibanejad, same thing. Like, Eric, you were saying maybe, eventually the second line becomes the first line. It's like, I think that actually is a solution. I don't think Zibanejad should have even been on the ice in the overtime because he played so poorly in regulation. And when you're looking at the time on ice that all of these players have received, Lafreniere is only on ice for 15 minutes and 50 seconds last night. Meanwhile, Zibanejad has 6 minutes extra compared to Lafreniere. Like, play the hot hand, play the guy who's playing better. Like, I don't need to see that much Zibanejad when he's producing literally nothing and giving the puck away. Give the other guys that ice time, move the lines around. Again, I'm not saying that I have all the solutions, but I could tell you for damn sure Laviolette has not found them just yet. We've praised him all season long because he's been able to find these solutions, and usually pretty quickly. Rangers hit a slump, and they're pretty quick to bounce out of it because Laviolette finds a way to adjust something. But some of the adjustments that he's made so far, I really don't think Hedl needed to receive load management in that game. Like, the maintenance, dude, it's a crucial road game. Like, you had a chance to go up 3-1. Get your best guys on the ice. Rest them in the Garden when you've got the advantage anyway because you're on the home ice. That would have been my thought process there. Blake Wheeler being on the ice last night just confused me in general. The fact that he shoved him into the lineup, I didn't really think it made a ton of sense. There's just been a few weird moments this series from Peter Laviolette. So I'm the big Laviolette apologist on this podcast, the guy who's been praising him every chance I get, but I do have to keep it 100 here and, call out the facts that Laviolette has really fumbled a couple of these games and has not made those crucial Laviolette adjustments that we've become accustomed to throughout the year.
And I will add on, just we talk about that terrible Zibanejad play that cost us the game. Zibanejad was trying to pass the puck to Blake Wheeler because he thought that Will Cooley was open. So a first-line player tries to pass it to a fourth-line player because a third-line player is – why are they all on the ice at the same time?
Didn't get it. I didn't get it at all. And I don't even think Zibanejad should have been on the ice there. And no, that's like such a great point to call out, Eric.
Yeah.
Like a really good point. I thought that as soon as the overtime period started, second line should have just went out there. Like, see if Trocheck and Lafreniere can connect on one real quick and that shit. Like, get the win right there. I have no idea why Zibanejad, the way that he's been playing all series, the way he was playing in that game in particular, how he led the team in ice time among all the forwards, and why he was on the ice to kick off the overtime period. That didn't make sense to me. That one, you can blame Zibanejad for sure because he's the one who screwed up, but you also have to blame Laviolette for thinking that he could rely on Zibanejad. Like, I get it. Zibanejad, legendary player, right? All that stuff. Elite for many years. But you got to understand as a coach, there are times to just, when a player's confidence is shaken, when they're in a slump, you just can't put them on the ice in a crucial situation like that. That was a massive mistake from Peter Laviolette.
Yeah. I agree there. As much as we love Laviolette, you gotta call him out when he makes a mistake. We'll admit when he does anything wrong. But
I think it also just goes. Oh, sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, that's our thoughts. Will, how do you feel?
Oh no, I think that Laviolette's been out coached, but in some of the games, but that's just how good of a coach Paul Maurice is. Like, just watching him coach the Panthers, it's like, I mean, look at them. It felt not that they were dead in the water in the first period, but I mean, they didn't look like the Panthers in that first period. And all of a sudden, they just flip a switch in the second, and their forecheck is just right back there. Like, it's the normal Panthers. So I think it really just goes to show how good of a coach Paul Maurice is and how well coached that Panthers team is in some parts of the game. And I mean, they are just a very good team, and that they are going to, if they don't win the cup this year, they're gonna win a couple in the next few years. So that props to Paul Maurice, because I've really enjoyed watching him coach the Panthers, and even his post game press conferences, because he does say some funny stuff. I can't lie.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, shout out the Panthers. They made it to the conference finals for a reason. We knew they'd be a very tough opponent, but like at the end of the day, I would really appreciate it to not watch the President's Trophy winning team just get outplayed in every facet of the game, every single game. And like I've said a couple times now, we are really, really lucky that this series is tied at 2 apiece. All we can do is really just hope and pray that tomorrow night in Game 5, the Rangers are able to regain another series lead and then hopefully close it out in 6 or 7. But it's going to be a long series. Tony, whatever you got to say, and then I'll wrap it up.
I'll say my last thoughts before I let you close it out. And it's essentially just my effort to try and end this on a positive note. When we were reacting to Game 1, Eric, or maybe it was Game 2, when we were reacting, we said that the Rangers just needed to split on the road. And so they did accomplish that. And we do have to be happy about that. Like, they had an opportunity to take a commanding lead and really get in the driver's seat in this series. But we did know that they were going on the road, hostile environment. Not so much, because, again, that stadium was pretty quiet last night. Like, swear to God, guys, speaking at a normal level while all the fans are cheering, and it was just no problem. I've never experienced that in any sporting event I've been to. I've been to a lot of NFL games, NBA games. I've been to concerts where you can't hear anything around you. But last night, normal dialogue, didn't raise the decibel level at all, didn't really bother me at all, just quiet stadium. But anyway, back to the point that I was making. It's now best of 3. Rangers have home ice. They're still sitting in a nice position here. They just got to play better hockey. They need to start performing better. And honestly, this game coming up in the Garden is a must win, because these road games have been really tough for the Rangers. So I do think that they need to win Game 5. But just to end it on a positive note, we did say in order to keep themselves alive, put themselves in a position to win the series, they had to split those road games. At least they accomplished that. Really wish they swept those road games, but we knew that that probably wasn't realistic anyway. It's just the fact that they dropped that first game in the series at home in the Garden might come back to bite us in the ass. But if we go into Game 5, win that one, play some better hockey, and hopefully pick up some momentum for those final games, I'm still feeling like it's really anybody's game right now, anybody's series, but the Rangers still are in this thing, so I wanted to end it somewhat positively here.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're right. Is like, we did say it. I know for a fact that I said it. As long as we split these road games, I would still be happy. So like, I don't know if it's just the fact that I was there for a loss, or just the way in which it went down, with like an overtime defeat. It hurt a little bit. This is definitely the most negative I've ever been on this channel. But at the end of the day, it's a best of 3 series now. Series is tied. Rangers have home ice. As long as a couple things go our way, we should have no trouble bouncing back into this. But I'm curious to know how everyone watching felt about Game 4 and the series moving forward. So please leave your thoughts down in the comment section below. If you did enjoy, please hit that like button. If you are new, maybe, just maybe, subscribe and ring that bell so you miss notification. And lastly, if you really love Fireside content, follow us on all of our social media platforms at Fireside Rangers. But that about wraps up today's episode. We'll be back tomorrow for some more Game 5 coverage. But until then, have a good one, and let's go Rangers.